Alrighty, so now that we have discussed what the color of white is, as far as frequency, spirituality, what it stands for, what it represents, I think we can move on into actually dressing the candle. At least that's what I call it. I don't really know what other people call it. If you have not watched that video, go ahead and tune into part 1. I'll link it down in the description, and I'll also, there should be a card coming up around here or here, okay? So yeah, so now we're going to talk about dressing the candle, okay? And again, this is very basic knowledge if you're just tuning into this video. This is just basically me showing how to work with white candles, and candles in general, but just specifically for white candles because it is the easiest, most beginner friendly, candle magic, and there's not much you can do to go wrong with this, okay? Okay, so let me get some water, sorry. Alrighty, so I usually like to have something like this. This is just the top to an old candle that I used to have. And I fill it up with my incense here. Now this particular incense, I'm not really sure what it's made from because I actually went to go get this from, I think it was a Botanica. But I think it wasn't where I live, so I'm not really sure like how, what they put in it because it was very like brief in what it explained it as. But this is incense here in its powder form. And this particular one is for the energy signature of Elegua. Now, I practice many forms of divination and different forms of spirituality. I don't necessarily subscribe to calling or saying that a spirit is one thing. I kind of feel like energy passes on, forever. So whatever someone calls it in this century, it's the same thing as it would be 10 centuries later. It's just, in a different form, in a different time, a different whatever, okay? So before anyone comes for me in the comment section, okay, everyone has that under control, right? Okay, so this is where I keep my incense, okay? I also have I have to have all of the elementals here, usually. It doesn't have to be like that, but just, if you want to go the extra mile, make sure everything is safe. Make sure you're calling the most forces that you can gather together. So here I have water. And you typically want to use fresh water, but I don't have a lake right behind me or anything, or a river. A river, yeah. I have Florida water here to also just aid as the garnish or the dressing for the candle. And then I have rose water here. And this is just going to serve also as a boost to the intent that I'm putting in, and also just to lighten up and make the frequency a little bit more vibrant and more on the love side of the spectrum, so that it anything that you add basically is going to fuel where you're sending your intention to. Wherever your thought is, wherever you're putting your energy into, that's where your energy is going to be put into. So the more that you connect it to, the more that you, whatever signifies something to you, whatever makes sense to you, you need to do that, okay? I can't tell you things like that, but I can definitely show you things that I can do, and maybe you have your own little things that you have already learned about yourself, okay, to be able to add to your candle magic. I also have, this is my element of earth here. I have a dried flower, and well, it's a dead flower. I have some type of affinity with flowers. Like it goes really deep. So I use flowers in almost everything that I do. And it's still fresh on the inside, like it's still moist, but because it's not connected to the stem, obviously it can't go on anymore, but it's still pretty alive, okay? So I also have my rose petals here. What I usually do is I'll just drop them however many I feel like is important. Again, all of that stuff, all of the details to what you do is definitely just up to you. And this is really simple, guys. It doesn't have to look pretty. In fact, it doesn't look pretty most of the time. But, sometimes it does look good. I also dip the rose petal in the incense first, just to make sure everything is connected. I like to have everything that is supposed to go together touch. I don't know why I do that. I'm still trying to figure out why there's certain things that I just naturally do. But yeah, so for some reason, if I'm putting an intention for my rose petal, which are in here now, with my incense, I want them touching because I want it to fuel whatever whatever I intended the rose to do, as well as with the incense. I want those powers to come together, okay? So again, whatever you want it to be, here is where it starts, okay? It's not always going to match here because, as you know, or just in general, we are in two different dimensions from what we're working with when we work with this occult. When we use our abilities that you know you have because you're here with me working on your candle magic. Us as spiritual people, you have to remember, physically it's not always going to look like what you're seeing in here. So as long as this is right, and as long as it's represented in a way that the fourth dimension and fifth dimension can conjure up as something to show here in the third dimension, that's all that matters, okay? So just make sure it makes sense for you. So again, this isn't what everyone does. This is what makes sense for you. But I'm just showing you kind of what you need. So you use your elements. You want to make sure, well, at least what I do, the things that I want the powers to collide, to work with each other, let them touch, let them mix, depending on what type of thing it is, solid, gas, water, whatever. So yeah, I let that sit here. I'm actually going to tear up the petals because they're a little bit bigger than I had thought. So you can go ahead and do that. So then you should have something that looks a little similar to this. And you see, it's not much. I don't like to overcrowd it because I like for my candle to be able to breathe. Okay? Another thing that I like to do is to sprinkle more of the incense depending on what my intentions are. And again, every time that you're putting something in here, you need to make sure that it has an intent or a purpose for why it's there, okay? You can add stuff just for it to be pretty, but if you're going to add something, you might as well add a little oomph to it, or, enchant it. You might want to charm it. It just doesn't matter. Whatever you feel is right, okay? At this point, you can put salt around your candle if you would like. I'm not going to do that just because for the purpose of this video, I don't want to start anything. That's why I'm not really saying what I'm intending, because I don't want to start anything that I'm saying here to actually be, forming. Okay, so then you want to use your oil or your liquids, whatever it is that you choose. And I typically, what I would use is olive oil, and I already have the olive oil around. But I put it around the rim and inside of the candle. Now you don't necessarily want to touch the wick with it or anything. You can. I don't know if it'll do any harm to it, but I just kind of do it like that. And then I add, for this particular candle, I'm going to be adding Florida water just to the rim, not to the actual candle. And again, I already charm my bottles whenever I get them. So it's already charmed. So you want to set your intention for that as well. And then also the same thing with your rose water. And I'll do a video posting, like showing how I do it. This is for a talk. This is more of a talking for people like who understand things by words better. And then I'll do the visual one for people who understand it better by looking at it. Okay, so same thing with the rose water. Then you're just going to put it around the rim of the candle, just like this. Now if you're really into symbols and stuff, if you're trying to get something, like receive something, I personally would do your circle counterclockwise, like going towards the right. Well, for me, that's my least dominant hand. I'm left-handed, so I would use my right hand as receiving. So vice versa, whatever your dominant hand is, you want to do the opposite if you want to receive something. Now, if you want to give something, if you're trying to put something on someone, or if you're trying to do a spell and you're trying to manifest something, you want to go the other way. So leftwise for me if you're lefty, and then right ways for you if you're righty. Okay? So then after doing that, what I'd like to do generally, I usually already have the incense going in the back, and I'll have like music playing, just to kind of get, the mood right, the flow of the frequency, of the energy that I'm trying to achieve. And then you really want to make sure that you're really imagining. That's a really big point for me, to really see whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, or to see the outcome that you're trying to get. Or if you're not even trying to necessarily achieve anything, you're just doing it to, cleanse the house, to set the room and keep it clear of any bad energy, because that's also what a lot of people use white candle magic for. You definitely want to make sure that you're just keeping a clear mind while you're doing all of this, because your mind, again, whatever you're putting in your mind is going to definitely come out in whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, whatever project that you're doing. So keep a clear mind, and just kind of focus on how the white makes you feel, how the frequency of the color of the candle in particular makes you feel. You want to, what I like about getting the glass, like these little glass candles, is it kind of feels like a cup, and it just feels like something that's familiar, and it's like an earthly thing. But what I feel like also is when I hold it, I feel like I can grasp, I can hold, I can feel like whatever it is that I'm lighting, whatever the flame is going to be melting, it's like I'm taking in from a soul perspective, whatever this is, meaning the frequency of the color. I'm taking in all of whatever I intended for this particular candle, and I'm taking it spiritually. I'm drinking it. So that's how it's like everything counts. All of the symbols, whether you make them up or whether it's an actual symbol that's been the energy for it has already been determined eons before. Everything matters, at least in my practice and how I do things. Another thing that you can also do before you do any of the rose petals and stuff, I should have said this in the beginning, you can scribe or write whatever your intentions are, whether it's symbols, whether it's hieroglyphics or something that you have that you have seen from your past or seen recently, numbers, if you want to do it that way, like triple numbers, anything like that. You can also set, like what I do, that's why I have these here. I have ruby and fuchsite and citrine here, because that's kind of the energy that I'm going for, more creative, happy, joyful approach, and a phase of a happier life. And you want to set it here if you want to, just the crystals, or you can just sit it near it. You could also sit this in water. This particular crystal doesn't do well with water, so I didn't do it. So yes, that's how you would dress it. Okay, so it looks really simple. This is very, very basic. So this is just, things that people can kind of have just laying around. I wanted it to be really, really simple. The powder here, you can make powders like this yourself. So don't be intimidated by things like that. Everything that I mentioned here, excuse me, it's probably around $15 max. Okay, maybe like 30, including these things. But, as far as like all the ingredients that I have here, just the two, you can have as many waters as you want, and we know that those are super, super cheap. And then the incense here. And then the candle was about $3, maybe $2. And so, yeah, so things like this are super, super cheap to get. And I know Magick can be kind of stressful on the wallet if you're someone who has responsibilities otherwise. Or if you're someone who likes to do lots and lots of magic, sometimes it can be overwhelming to keep up with what you need to stay in stock of, or, So I understand how it can be, but sometimes you just need to use what you have around you, because most of the time it's the universe trying to tell you, you don't have all the other stuff, because right now you have all of this stuff that you could be using and that you need to use for your greater good now, but you haven't even used it. So why would I provide more for you? So definitely use what you have if you cannot afford it. But if you can afford it, go ahead and go out and see what catches your eye. Different herbs, different crystals, different colors, different candles, different shapes, different symbols. Do all of that, or different oils as well. All of stuff like that, and then go home and research it, or come home and ask me about it and ask me to make a video on it. I'm here for you guys, and yeah, so this is basically how you would dress your candle, and it looks really basic, guys. It's nothing special. Then after that, you would light it as so. I'm not gonna light mine because I'm actually gonna do a video showing you how I visually do this, so you guys can see the full thing. And then after you do that, you want to pay attention to the flame. Okay, the flame is very, 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 very important. And I'll probably show you guys a little diagram of some old notes that I made in my old grimoire of flames and signals, meaning, like how strong your intention is, how weak your spell is, or whatever it is that it will be, or the outcome of what you're trying to ensue, what it will actually be based on the flame. The strength of the flame really depends on your psyche, your intent, how much power you have. And then also the situation itself, like how much power and leverage it has on its own, and how many other people influences are impacting it. because that makes a big difference. And not a lot of people talk about that in the Magick community. The things that people know, it doesn't always mean that people are doing bad. It doesn't mean that people are intentionally putting their thoughts into different projects or different things that you're doing. But the more that people know things, the more influence that there just is. There's just more people that know about it. There's more frequency. There's more knowledge. There's more light shed on something that you as the owner have. And the more that people know about things, the more easy it is for a target to knock it down, or someone to see the target and try to knock it down. So just be very aware of that. If you are doing things that you want to manifest and you want them to be super strong, it's probably best to, 1, wait and be patient. Don't rush anything. And 2, talk to people that you can trust, or maybe spiritual advisors to help you strengthen what you're trying to do. Like, they can do things as well with you, like the same type of spell. But you don't want to necessarily just tell a lot of people about it, because it does weaken your intention. Well, it can. It doesn't always, but it definitely can. So yeah, that's been my little video on telling you guys how to dress your candle. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I got everything in there. And stay tuned for the visual demonstration if you would like to see how it is that I physically do all of this with the music and everything. And yeah, I will see you guys very soon.